Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Monday, August 15th, 2016 City Work Session here. And at this time, I will call the meeting to order. Mike, you probably should leave for a little while. And we're going to have a presentation tonight on discussion about the Lions Club on the proposed picnic shelter and restrooms. So if you gentlemen want to come on up, use the speakers in front of you and introduce yourselves to the council, even though we all know you. The public will be watching.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I am Tom Marquardt, representing the Watertown Lions Club. And this is Michael White. He is the president of the Watertown Lions Club, current term this year. And we're here to discuss what we think is probably just a wonderful addition to Watertown. And it is at the Lions Park. And I'd like to do a small presentation, and then I'd definitely be open for comments. And one of the things preparing for this presentation, I wanted to use the who, what, and why. And the who is the Watertown Lions Club. And in conjunction with area volunteer organizations, local businesses, individuals, and organizations that cater to the community youth. And what I will get to in just a couple of minutes. And why we're doing this? To improve the access and user-friendly experience of Watertown's crown jewels, that our youth can feel safe and secure doing something that almost every child enjoys, and that is fishing. And we are prepared to put together a project. There's a couple of different numbers that you'll see on the brochure. One number you'll see on the brochure is about a $400,000 number, and up here we have listed at $350,000 improvement. And the numbers came from, we'd like to go to 400,000, but we feel very comfortable that we need to generate the $350,000. And I can kind of go over just a little bit with you here on what we're doing. This area here will be the parking lot. To give a little orientation, first of all, is what I'm pointing on down here, along here. This is 3rd Avenue as we venture along here. And currently, we would come in right now into this driveway, and there'd be a loop around that comes around and goes back out. And the house that was sitting there was sitting back up over here where that mound is right now. What we chose to do is we're going to take and close off so we have just one access to this area. And we're going to not utilize this drive-in, we're going to utilize this drive-in. And then we're going to have a parking spaces over in this area. We would have 23 parking spots, and then we have another 4 parking spots here, and then we have 2 handicap accessible parking lots here. On that drawing that I have sitting there for you, it gives a little better detail as far as what's going on there. And just to let you know who we're working with, RS Architects out of Sioux Falls has volunteered their time to put together our structural design and the whole works. They've been really wonderful, and just it's all coming to us free of charge. Austin Engineering is volunteering their time and effort for all the structural design and for the civil engineering. So what's being done here, it's getting taken care of, and we're going to service well for the city. As we take a look at this structure here, we have, as it indicates there, we have the women's restroom, and then we have a men's restroom, and then we have a storage area in between. This area here is the enclosed picnic shelter. This area here is the exposed area. If we go over to this drawing here, it shows that there's a canopy that goes along here over top of that enclosed area. So that's what's going to be basically generally acceptable, accessible 365 days a year to the general public. The restrooms here have access to the outside, and they have access to the inside. These restroom areas or access will be just like if there were any other restroom in any of the other parks in Watertown. This area in here, these doors are able to be locked. Now, when we take a look at this area here. There's 4 different windows here, and it's a little easier to see on your drawing where I marked it windows with screens. There's 4 of them that face this area here, which will face the pond. Then there's a pair of them that'll be on this side here. Those screened in windows will have stainless steel roller doors on the outside of them, so that those doors can be closed down in a event that you're having there, that it's really windy outside. And we have total control for the city for this particular project and this enclosure. And we're working with the city. Jay's been wonderful to work with. We have got it set up to, basically, we're going to have it as a reserve type, set it up as a reserve type event for the enclosed part of it. And like Derby Downs, $16. They go and they can reserve it for the day or however long. And, you know, they have to be shut down at 10 o'clock because that's the curfew on the parks within the city of Watertown. Okay, we're going to take and we're going to have sidewalks installed here and here, handicap accessible, so it connects up to our existing sidewalks throughout the whole thing. The area that is exposed on the inside and outside will be burnished block. And to kind of give a little bit of a feeling of what burnished block is, if you are familiar with the concession stand restrooms that they put up out in the latest softball diamond, they use burnished block there. It gives it really a nice appeal. We plan on polishing the concrete on the inside, and that's where we're at. There's just, before we go just a little bit further, I'd like to give the council a little bit of an idea who the individuals we are working with. I got a sheet of paper here I got to find. Thought I had everything out. Sorry about that. I don't want to forget anybody. Here we go. Okay, kind of spearheading this project for the Lions Club, excuse me, is Dustin Brownell. Remember, these names of companies that I'm listing are names and members of our Watertown Lions Club. And from Gray Construction, we have Dustin Brownell. He and I are co-chairs of this project, and that's the expertise he's bringing to that, along with the other disciplinaries within construction, is brought in as Glass Products, Andor Incorporated, Rendlinger Brothers, Active Heating and Ventilation, Block Excavating, and Marquardt Electric are all represented with members of our Lions Club, and they're all bringing their expertise to this project along with labor and material and in-kind donations. So that's kind of the gist of it. One of the main reasons we're here right now, Mayor Thorson mentioned and wanted to know how things were going as far as our fundraising. We started getting things, we're just starting to kick off our fundraising. Currently, we have $60,000 cash in the bank waiting to be spent with Lions Club. And we came out, we got ready to do our major fundraising, going out and asking people to drop anywhere between $10,000 to $50,000 if we can. And we realized real quick that it's a lot easier to ask them to put out $50,000 in 2, possibly 3-year type payments. It's a little more palatable to the bookkeeping process. And so we're here to ask the city council to front us to the tune, or access to the tune of about $200,000 that we would pay back when the money comes in. We don't anticipate using that much money. We anticipate right now that with this $350,000 or $400,000, depending upon which one of the projects we went with, is the number that we acquired through Gray Construction if they were going to bid this project off a set of prints for the city of Watertown. We're able to back off between $50,000 and $75,000 with in-kind donations, whether it be a good portion of them are coming right from the members that I listed there, and we've had other people step up that are looking at donating. And until we get it all secured, I'm not going to really mention a whole lot of names, and for fear of not mentioning them all. But we've had tremendous support within the community. And we're looking here for the city of Watertown to put $200,000 up that we would have access to, so we can get this project up and going and get it completed. Our time frame for completion is to have our inaugural event on free fishing weekend. I believe it's May 28th of next year, 2017. And we have, in conjunction with the Dakota Sportsman, the Walleye Fishing League, the Sodak Ice Fishing League, the Game Fishing Parks, the FOP, and we're going to put on a fishing seminar. Search and Rescue, Cotting County Search and Rescue. And we're going to put on a fishing seminar, and we're going to have it set up in little areas along there. And any young child or adult wants to come in and wants to learn how to put their line on their reel. Something as simple as I was out there walking around talking to people and what's going on, and this little shaver was sitting out there and he was casting, and his buddy could cast a lot further than he could, and he was becoming really frustrated. So I looked at it, and he had a two-piece line, or two-piece rod. Well, when you have a two-piece rod, it happens to me too. The top piece has a tendency to turn. Well, it had to turn all the way around, and he had a twist in his line, so he couldn't cast. And so I turned it around for him and showed him, geez, that's great. Those are the little things we want to hold a seminar on. And we want to do an annual thing like that. So that's our inaugural event. So with that, I'm open to questions.
Tom, if I may, I'd like to just mention that Tom is absolutely right, because we talked about this project, and you said it was going to be in that $300,000 to $400,000 range, and you said it's going to take maybe a couple years in order to get this thing built.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah, and that's when I suggested that he come in front of the council, the work session, and discuss, the city kind of upfronting the dollars, whether there be interest or not, I don't know. That's a decision that the council needs to make if they go with this. But it's just one of those things, and I read a really nice article in the paper the other day about how service clubs like yourself get involved with the community and just make things happen. You guys had the swimming pool, and it kind of, you gave that to the city at one particular time. Now you got Lions Park, and look what you're doing to that. So I think it's really a great project. I don't think that I would have any issue of going out there and having the city borrow dollars, but that's a decision they would have to make.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll open it up for questions. If any of you have any questions for Tom or Mike, here's your chance.
Tom, your projected 350 to 400,000. That is with in kind, or is that the total project?
That would be the cost of the total project we're handing over to the city.
Yep.
Okay, that's not the cost, what we're going to incur building it because of in-kind donations, in-kind labor, and reduced cost. We got a huge one here with the different contractors that are donating their time.
Mm-hmm.
Number one is, myself being a contractor, they're not taking their margin. And we know that's about 50% of the whole project anyway.
Yep.
Because we contractors make a ton of money.
Tom, the cost you're throwing out, that includes a parking lot as well then?
The 350, it does not include the complete parking lot with the concrete and everything at this point. We're just not sure how much we're going to get donated there as far as because we ran into a little bit of some issues on needing to fill. We've got quite a slope there, and we're trying to just determine, working with Austin Engineering, how far we have to go. We're running into some real positives there. As originally, it was a gravel pit. And what we had is they had to reclaim it, so they put some dirt down, black dirt, to come in. We're hoping we can get that 350 in the parking lot, and that's where that 400 on the brochure that we got there. We're hoping not to exceed that. Our plans are not.
Also, what's going to be the capacity roughly of the shelter itself if you get a big crowd? I mean, what comfortably are you looking at holding?
We're looking at utilizing picnic tables and such. It's between 65 and 70. It's not for a large crowd.
Okay, maybe that answers my next question then, because I heard you say roughly 30 parking spaces, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be ample parking for a normal crowd within the shelter?
I think it is, but then again, you get to a situation where, I started looking at the parks around. What do we have for parking spots in different parks around town? And I said to myself, if it's a real kind of a yucky day out where people are going to want to be inside, it's going to handle everything. If it's a beautiful day where they can come in and they can get gathered up out in this area where it's going to be all grass and such, and it's going to be a beautiful place to go fishing down there, and they can handle a whole bunch more. It's really tough to. We've been working with the city engineer's office. We've been working with the Austin Engineering and trying to determine what is the appropriate number of parking spots there.
I would imagine that in a kind of an event where you're going to have 65 to 70 people, a lot of times it's maybe families and 4 or 5 of them are going to come together in a car. So, you're not going to necessarily need 75 parking spots. Would that be a fair
That's
statement?
kind of what we're looking at. The original intent on any improvements we're doing here was to enhance it for the youth of the community of Watertown. When you drive by there, I've drive by there taking pictures, and it's pretty incredible. Kids that are 8 to 10, 12 years old riding their bikes over there. They got the kiddie pond on the other side, but the problem that I see with the kiddie pond, I tried to compare the two of them, is the kiddie pond is way back away from the road, and the visibility of what's actually happening there at the kiddie pond, it really isn't there. This park has an environment that is, I think, probably one of the safest places for the kids in the city of Watertown to hang out because it's got that 3rd Avenue exposure. There's a lot of traffic that are on there, and you can really see what's going on all the way around that park area. So we're not building this to be able to host huge weddings, and we're not building this to be able to host great big family events. We're building this so a family of 8, 10, 15 can get together, and they can come in here. We got it set up to this area right here. If you look on your print that I have you, this area right here is going to be basically set up for a serving counter. And I can guarantee you will not be able to trip the breakers there with the amount of power that'll be available with your crock pots.
It's interesting also, like the last 3 years that I can recall, Camp Chance has been out there at the Lions Park.
That's huge.
It is. There's 100 kids running around there catching those little perch. It would be really nice if there was better restrooms for them and a place to kind of get out of the elements.
This is at this point some of the groups that are supporting us. We have the FOP Camp Chance. I sat down with Connie Cutler, and we're trying to work what we can do with this particular facility to make it better for them. The Isaac Walton League has jumped on board. The trail that connects this park with the Frisbee Park has been a real contention and a thorn in the side for our law enforcement and the fire department because what's been in the paper, and if you ever go back there in that trail, you realize that some things that are happening back there probably aren't the most appropriate things to see.
Right, and that's kind of AKA Crazy Hills.
What's that?
It's called Crazy Hills.
Well,
Yeah, that's what everybody talks about.
okay. They're taking that on, and they're going to make a nature trail out of it. You're going to be able to go back down through there. They're going to open it up wide open, about 5-foot passage, so they can get the fire department's vehicle can get down through there in case there's a fire there. They can get their small vehicle down through there. The police department can get back in there with their 4-wheelers and see what's going on back there. And they're going to make a nature trail out of it. South Dakota Game Fish and Park stepped up. Rhett Russell from the aquatic section from the Wildlife Division for public access. Brian Blackwell for the fishery biologist. Both of those, we talked to Brett, and he's got some really cool ideas to enhance the scenery there in the public access. Brian Blackwell, the fishery biologist, they do the stocking of this particular pond. It's called a put and take type stocking. It's for urban fishing, and basically said they have intention of, as long as we continue to improve this, we will be on the highest priority or one of the high priorities for the Game Fish and Parks Department. Marnie Lammy, she is the GF&P Nature Coordinator. She's come to Watertown, and she's just getting started in Watertown. Last year, she did 2 of the schools. I visited with her. What can we do to make it more enticing for you? They get buses and they get individual schools and they bring them down and do nature education and nature environment. And she intends to do all the grade schools this year. We got the Dakota Sportsmen's on board. They're there going, yeah, we're going to be involved. We got the groups we're working with for functions here is the Hockey Association. They're talking about doing pond hockey. Boy, I told you when I got some of the guys together that are associated with hockey, and I said, if we get this set up, that's why we're insulating the bathrooms, the restrooms here. We are insulating those in order to be able to have it heated in there. And then the open area, we will be having it, I'll have it wired so they can have those infrared heaters. I don't know if any of you are smokers, but I refer to them, the Minnesota smoke warmers, where you sit out there and you got the infrared heat sitting on you and you warm up while you're having a cigarette. Okay, we're going to have it set up so we can have those installed. That's future to be installed, but they'll be wired for it. We're not going to put it in there now. We're going to see what the need is. We have the Sodak Ice Fishing League has told us they're going to put on a kids fishing tournament there. The mayor volunteered to be there, and so we're going to call it the mayor's tournament. I don't know if he knows that yet or not. We have the free fishing weekend with the GFMP, like I spoke earlier. So we've already got lined up. I'm working in conjunction or with Luann Straight up the LATI. What is it that we can do with this facility in this area to give our youth an opportunity that are attending LATI? Can we put broom hockey out there? Can we get it set up for that? Very possible. Jack Rasmussen, he's been here with the hockey. He lives, breathes, and sleeps hockey, and he's already got it all figured out how he smooths it off. He's got the rake, and he's got the flooding material and the whole works. He's already got that all down. So, any other questions?
Tom, maybe you said earlier on, how do you control, I mean, is it going to be first come, first serve or reservation or?
It'll be reserved through working with Jay back here. And what we're doing basically is looking at right now is setting it up as Derby Downs.
Right, and
that's-
Derby Downs is a first come, first serve. You call in and you reserve the place.
Yep.
And that's exactly what they do. One of the questions I had, there's a lot of parking over to the west of that. Will that parking remain, or will that kind of go away
Our,
near the trees?
our intentions right now is to leave that. Because if you go there and take a look at the usage of it, about 60% of the people that use that park there. Because they park up there, they walk down there with their families, and they fish, they spend some time, and they go back up. It's really close. Mom can go run back up and get her cooler with water. Dad can come up and get the kids whatever they need, and things like that. So our intention right now is not to do a whole lot with that, other than maybe in the future enhance it some.
I would think that would be a pretty good spot for a little overflow parking if you had issues with
Yeah.
that.
Sure.
Have there been any problems with the parking on the surface that's there currently? It's just gravel and dirt, I take it, isn't it? Well, this might be a good question for Shane. What would happen if we just had a gravel parking lot out there?
Well-
It kind of takes away a little bit of that urban
Yeah,
look to it, too, I think, if we had
Right.
something like that.
We
I
would-
just don't know how well that would work.
yeah. We would prefer a paved parking lot, essentially, but, that's more all-weather type thing. And with the anticipation of, they have 2 handicap stalls there, that area for sure would have to be paved. But that can be an evolution type discussion, but in the end, a facility like that that's intended to be full service should be paved, but have gravel overflow parking is certainly permissible. I mean, we have that at all of the ball fields like Anza's, gravel and things like that. So it's possible, but preferable have pavement. And I think this is going to be an excellent facility here, really. It's.
Tom, your
I just-
intent,
I'm sorry, just one more thing. I just want to say, I think it's great what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
This is
I
this
would-
is really cool when all these kind of
I
things
would like to address
come
the
together.
parking lot, if I might. Okay, we chose not to go with pavement, because pavement, when you go on a 100-degree day and step on pavement with a barefoot, it hurts. Because I'm almost 60 years old, and I haven't learned that yet, because I just burned my foot this summer. Because I like going barefoot all the time. Okay, so pavement is bad. The other thing is, we have one of our members in our Lions Club who has found his world to get around is becoming more and more reliant on a wheelchair. And he's been our guiding light for the access for here. And he says, make it so I can pull up here any place I want to in here, and I can get anywhere I want to in this park. And so we're taking that as a huge thing, as that handicap access. Our intention is on the area that we don't have sidewalk that goes off towards the railroad tracks, the South Dakota Community Foundation has monies available. They don't do brick and mortar, but they do handicap access. So we want to take and have the area going off towards the railroad tracks. We want to have that not only be able to have a sidewalk there, but we want to put a couple of different places where people can pull their wheelchair down by themselves and be right at the water's edge and fish just like everybody else can.
My assumption is that, in Jay, the Park and Rec would maintain this and.
Yeah, but,
The
but
bathrooms.
that's phase 3, phase 4, because every time we get together and people come up, they donate, they come up and say, hey, well, what if you do this? We're going, cool.
I would be supportive of, we'd have to obviously check with Shelley, but I think that that amount of money, we've done something here recently that wasn't that long ago that we had something we did that way. And I would just say, in this situation, I don't perceive interest being an issue, quite honestly. I don't see why we would get into that.
And Tom was in the office, Shelley and I, and Tom have had numerous discussions, and they've all have been very, very positive in that way.
Yeah, and if it helps, Tom, I mean, I think that you should talk a couple of years, but even, I know a lot of these fund deals end up being up to 5 years where they commit some money, so if
That
that,
really opens things up.
if that helps, I don't see, on this size amount of money, why we couldn't work something out in that term.
And the other thing is Lions don't pay, you can put a lien on the building.
Well, that takes care of my answer on the next one, I mean, which I pretty much knew already, but the end goal is that you're gonna dedicate that to the city and let
It
the,
will be completely 100% city property.
Yep.
It is, when we get done with it, we've been working, Jay and his group have just been incredible to work with to make this happen. The first go-around on the sidewalks, we were scheduled to do the improvements of the shelters. Terry Jorgensen was the director at that time. And there was budget numbers coming that were for putting sidewalks there along with a whole bunch of other places, sidewalks in the parks. And Terry called up and says, Tom, our bids are $5,000 and over above. We either got to accept or deny. We can't chisel away, pick and choose. He goes, we need another $5,000. I went to our board and they said, okay. Lions came up with another $5,000. So we've got probably, between the landscaping and what we got there, we've probably got $20,000 already of the Lions money into this park. And then we're prepared to come up with the rest.
thank you guys for all your hard work. I mean, it's gonna be a great asset to the city and to the kids of the city, so.
It makes such a beautiful entry or exit, whatever you want. It makes such a beautiful, nice place to drive by when you're coming into Watertown from that side of town. And I've been involved in a lot of activities that have taken place there, everything from Camp Chance to some other thing. And now I'm not saying I'm going to give you this money, but it's worth $1 million to me. I think that, and to the city too. I don't think you can put a value on that.
We would be able to spend it.
No, I said I'm not giving that to you, but can I repeat that? I'm not giving, no. But I really think that it's such a tremendous resource, and it looks so nice, and it went from just a gravel pit to something that really is an asset for the community. So I got to echo what everybody else has said, and I agree with Bill. I think this is something that we can work with.
That would be wonderful.
And Tom, a number of years back, I was in Sioux Falls for a weekend with with my grandkids. We went to that butterfly place, but they've got a pond out there, and it happened to be a weekend. Game Fishing Parks had a big thing for the kids. They had a place where they painted T-shirts, and a group was fishing, and they had kayaking and all this stuff. And it was a big weekend within Sioux Falls, and it's not much different than this whole scenario here. I can see lots of things you can keep building on this with.
And the people that are coming behind us, I would like to visit with you on that, Bill, because we're looking for a real signature event at this park here. And we're looking for individuals to give us recommendations on what they think can do here, and can we incorporate those into this whole facility?
We just didn't realize it was going on, and we were there the whole day. We just
Yeah.
went there to go to the butterfly building and ended up being there the whole day.
Did you get your face painted, Bill?
No, I did not, but I believe a couple of the grandkids did.
I think also, when you talk to Jay, and the Park and Rec is kind of looking at to what you have going on here, I think they can foresee having kayaks out there and canoes out there and paddle boats and what have you. But I would encourage you to swing by Todd Kays and just visit with him about the Bush Foundation. I think it's something that would be very, very easy to apply for a federal, or not a federal, but a Bush Foundation grant for a project like this.
That would be wonderful. That would be, I will do that.
Yeah, because he can help you fill out the paperwork, and you guys can do all that, and I would encourage you to do that.
We also are going to be working with, excuse me, and applying for grants through the Lions International Foundation also. And this year happens to be coming up, next year happens to be coming up our centennial for Lions Club, and this year is a year for the youth. So I think this fits right in there, and I'm just trying to get all my ducks in a row before I go for that one too. So that'd be great.
Do we need to put this on a future agenda so they can get their plans going?
Right. What we'll do is if, I think we're pretty much all on board, we'll put this on the next council agenda that we can look at giving you that upfront dollar so you can get the project moving along.
That would be fantastic.
Any other questions for either one of these guys? No?
I would like to thank everybody here for the time. This is going to be a neat project. I'm looking forward to seeing the. I don't know if I'll ever see the completion because we always come up with something else. But it's cool, neat. It's neat. Thank you.
Hey, next time let Michael talk a little bit, okay?
I would just like to extend a sincere thank you from the Watertown Lions Club to the city of Watertown. You guys have been nothing but supportive to this project since day one, since we even talked to the mayor to begin with, and we're really looking forward to unveiling the true potential of this park. You know, and it's really exciting to do, and watching these local businesses come out of the woodwork and ask, how can we help? What can we do? And we just really didn't foresee that. It's really been kind of neat seeing that happen. So thank you.
Well, there's always been a great relationship between Lions Club and the city of Watertown. I mean, you look back at the original swimming pool and the fundraising. You know, I remember old Bob Richardson. I mean, that was his.
The water slides.
Yep, that was his whole heart and soul. So,
It's been a
thanks
little
Lions Club
touchy
for.
since you came on board, though, Tom.
I'm sorry, what?
No, I'm just kidding. Life is smooth.
The very first individual to get thrown out of that Watertown pool after the slide was put up and that bridge was put up there for spitting was Bob Richardson. He's the one that built it.
Tom, have you talked to Lake Area? You know, they do projects. I certainly wouldn't speak for them that they would build this, but they do look for wooden projects.
We've been working with them, and the issue is that this is going to be all block, the main part of the structure. And then what we have is Reeves Building Systems. They are supplying all the rafters. And then we have different contractors that are specifically Gray Construction, and I think we may get some other ones on board that will be setting that up at very little no cost. We have, it's going to be a steel roof, and it's going to be put on by Protec. And one of the reasons we're doing that and doing it the way we're doing it is we want to turn this over to the city, and the idea that it's going to be here 25, 30 years from now with very little maintenance. That's the whole idea. We have been working with we got offered from the LATI. That was way back when Deb Shepard was there. And then when Mike Cartney came on, he also offered whatever services we think the LATI can offer, they would readily step up. Yep.
Well, they have that department with the earth moving and stuff. Maybe some of that part of it they could help out with.
Yeah,
You know, that's a fantastic idea because we're looking for somebody to do that, and school's about ready to start. We may tap into that one. That's thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Because
Tim,
we're looking for somebody to.
interesting enough, I was over there the other day, and Doug was working out there, and already Clausen's have donated sand and
Gravel, yeah.
gravel to fill that in. Yeah, you guys got it going, so I think it's great.
It's snowballing. It's cool. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you very much.
Sure appreciate it. Well, guys, we don't really have an awful lot on the work session. So I think what we'll do, there's a lot of different things going on in town. Let's open it up for some discussion on different things that are happening that you're concerned about or that you're seeing needs a little attention. Shane, you might just want to jump in there and give us some of the things that are going on our on our city streets and. Thanks, Steve. Bruce asked if you were prepared, and I said he's always prepared.
It's not.
How do you like to say that? I'll let it roll? Is that? Actually, I don't want to, let's start with something that's probably a little more current event relative. Does anybody have any questions on the flood event of last week?
Did we have very much damage that we,
I can bring up the pictures that we've taken and show you what some of the money that you've spent in designing in the past, how that helped save the large portion of the community. If you want to quick flip through some photos, that would be.
I didn't see any of you volunteer to get the half-inch of water out of my basement.
They kick in.
Shane, while you're pulling that up, what do we design for in regards to capacity of a rain event? I mean, is there some standards that we design to that?
Yes. The storm sewer collection system, i.e. the pipes, is generally geared up for a 10-year event. Something like what we had last Thursday is a much, much greater event than that. I have not heard what they project that to be. I doubt it. It probably didn't quite make a 100-year event, but it certainly was in the top 10 or higher events probably in the history of, or the recent history of Watertown. So it was pretty significant. We can't downplay that. But I think the community overall handled it pretty well. And our stormwater facilities that we design, and this is a classic example of one, you know, you can see how the water flowed into this and it spread out over a large area. And if this area wasn't here, you can imagine how much deeper and harder flowing Roby Creek would have been.
Tell us where that is.
Okay, I believe, now I didn't take all the photos, but I believe this is 14th or 10th maybe. We're at the top end of Roby Creek. So this is, I believe we're over, this is the cemetery.
Yeah, that's what I would guess. That's cemetery, so that's
So-
10th.
So this is 14th, actually. And we're sitting over north of the Cowboy Station with this photo. So this is, the highway's behind us,
Okay.
and we're looking towards, you know, the church and the roundabouts over behind these buildings. Cemeteries all along here. Right, so this is basically the end of 16th Avenue, I believe, looking out. And, but again, with all, you can see how wide that water spread out. And if that would have all been released together going down Roby Creek, there would have been a much larger disaster than what happened. So we'll just kind of flip through some pictures here. We got quite a few. This is further downstream. This is actually at the location where we did last year's flood project down, I believe it's between 9th Avenue, or in south of 9th Avenue, about 6th and 7th, somewhere in there. So there's a little bit of water that got on the road, but not much.
I think what you're looking at there is actually 7th Street, 9th Avenue is to our left, if I'm not mistaken on that.
Yep, this is, yeah, we were on 9th Avenue looking south. So yeah, this is 7th Street. And you can see how the water backed up in the area that we kind of reserved for it to sit in and flow through. This is looking at that same area from a different angle. Some water did get in the street, but all in all, it stayed in the Roby Creek channel pretty well. Here's a corner just a little bit further down the road, and this is actually where we allow the water to cross over, is just to the, out of the screen to the right. And here again, this is now looking north along that same 7th Street location, and the water passes under our new culverts underneath this intersection diagonally. It does have a little bit of an overflow, and we intentionally kept that overflow to you know, we gotta allow the water to top over the ditch and run, but, so we did that. And all these upstream ponds, of course, helped us meter that water through here, and,
There was a ton of water retained over there by Great Plains, that whole football field, and
yeah.
I just took, 24 or 48 hours, something like that, and then slowly drained out. That worked really good.
Yep, and this is the reason we don't encourage kids, and I mean, I hope people are watching this. Do not let your kids walk in what looks like calm water, because at the end of this, there is current, and you could suck a small child, a basketball, whatever fell in that, through that culvert pretty fast. So I just want people to know that when your kids are playing in what looks like calm water, there is current through that. So let's be careful. Just forewarn that. There's not. Right, yep. Here's a location where it can overtop the road.
Shane, do you think there should possibly be some
Well,
grates in there?
that's a kind of a catch-22. So
They plug up.
yeah, and you got to think about it. Your body's pretty big. If you did get sucked into that, it wouldn't save you from. It would save you from getting sucked into the pipe, but you would get pinned to that and you'd still drown. So you know it's like the drain to your bathtub. Whatever gets put over the drain gets sucked to it, and so you don't want to rely on a trash guard to save you. A trash guard's meant to keep large trees and cars and stuff out of the pipe, but, well, it's happened. But, so here's some more water on the streets, and like I said, the community handled that amount of water pretty well. Just keep flipping through.
Some of that's designed to run down the street also, right?
Correct, yep, and we'll see some of that here. This is standing at the corner of 3rd Avenue, and I can't remember what street this is, but this is right next to just west of the high school, in that little pond down there, and, yep, so this pond as well, you can see how wide it spread out. It functioned very well, keeping the water, allowing it to spread out. And there's a case, or right there's the picture of it flowing over a road where we intend to let it flow over a road, rather than hold it back or try to put it in a small culvert. You know, we just let it overtop it. Put barricades out, hope people are smart enough to not go around them. This same picture from a different direction. I believe that's on 6th Avenue. Here's where because we're metering the water through those pond facilities, you can see that we actually contained the water for the most part in the Roby Creek. Otherwise, it would have been, well, it probably at the peak of the event was out of its banks, but because we have all those ponds in there, we're metering that water out. It came down to a safer level faster. So there you can see coming down, and it spread out over the street again. And like I said, it looks calm, but there's good current coming down through that. This is another picture. That's the Lutheran school. The water at one point at its deepest was at the top of these. This is a piece of galvanized fence wrapped around a control structure out there. And if you drive by that today and look at how tall those fence posts were, there was only about 4 to 6 inches sticking out of the water. And in this case, the water did overtop the road just downstream from this, but it didn't get very deep, and that's a tribute to how well designed and functioned that storm pond system was. So there's another picture of it. The water, I think, at the peak was out about as far as the bean field there. So a lot of water. I mean, millions and millions of gallons of water in this pond that would have been in somebody's basement or flowing through the yards. What's that? Yeah. Lake went up 2 inches, I heard, but we'll see. But there's a picture of the storm structure.
Is that all from like the Northridge area? Is that where that's
Yeah, all these pictures are up primarily on Roby Creek. Yeah. Roby Creek officially begins right by the new Hosanna Church.
Did you get any photos where that old Cottage Grove Park used to be just north of Lincoln? They got the 3 berms in there.
The soccer complex piece.
It's
there?
directly north of Lincoln School, or south, I'm sorry, south of Lincoln School, pardon me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I did have a photo, but it may not be in this slide. Yeah. Next to the community gardens, is that the one you're talking about?
That would be farther east.
Okay, well then.
I will say that over the years, I've, because I used to have a house there, that has been awesome.
Yeah, if
That
it
really
didn't
worked
flood, we
well.
probably don't have a picture, or I mean, it probably
I
was
guarantee it
underwater,
was
but
full of water.
most of these pictures are where we got complaints, so we went and gravitated to those, but, some of these are kind of going back over the area that we already looked at. You can see the power of the water. It actually blew out of a pipe probably on the backside of this thing, so we'll have to look at the backside of that and make sure that that's sealed back up. Otherwise, it'll let all this dirt get sucked into the pipe. So we're currently evaluating all of the areas that where water flows through culverts and
So-
runs over the roads, make sure that we get all that stuff put back together if it needs some work. So
Where were the pictures of the kayakers?
that picture, ironically, was in the parking lot of the strip mall that has the pawn shop and Tokyo Grill in it.
So right, 81, 212.
Yeah. Some of that water, I mean, where the kayakers were was more in the parking lot, but the roadway was underwater there as well. I believe this is over in the east part of town, looking into what's now Eastwood's 18th. This is just a,
Shane, can I stop you for 1 second?
You
They
can.
just mentioned about Highway 212 and 81. With the reconstruction of 212, will there be any, will we kind of take care of some of that? Because it does fill up there. It doesn't take a 4-inch rain either to do that.
well, unfortunately, the intersection of 212 and 81 was redone a few years ago. And our new projects start on either side of that, about a half a block. So I think the opportunity to replace the storm sewer in this particular intersection is probably not there. But we can certainly address issues on either side of that's in this district. And I'm trying to work with the DOT to make sure that we do or don't need to upsize things. Now, I don't think we had a lot of significant flooding outside of that intersection, so. with
Typically
that
over
said-
by Shopko, that's where,
Yeah, and
and that's where, I think a lot of this probably backed up into that intersection, but wasn't there talk, I remember one time you were talking about the original engineering of east side of Highway 212 and going directly south of there into some,
Yep, that's an area.
into some
that's-
borrow
That's an area that's on my list
retention.
of things to take care of, yep.
That intersection, you can go back to 69 flood when Spies it flooded that whole corner. And I think that must be obviously a low spot that everything gravitates to, so.
Yeah.
You know, we can pick any of it up further down, maybe catch some of it before it
Right.
gets to there.
Right. Well, a lot of that water comes down Highway 81 all the way from the north down to that intersection. So that's a lot of surface area to try to accommodate the water in. And like I said, we design things for a 10-year storm, and when you have a storm that exceeds that by a great margin, it's hard to manage that in a pipe. This is, these couple pictures, this is what I call Cherry Creek. This house that this staircase is sitting on is actually fronts Cherry Creek, and so this is at Eastwood's drainage area, towards the south end. 10th Avenue is this road that's right here. It's all west of 19th Street. And this person sent these to the city so we could see it. I actually went out there after this, and I have other photos in the daylight where you can see the debris line on this fence, and it's up 2.5 feet off the ground, and so it was a tremendous amount of water that flowed through that creek. But again, and that's the aftermath. That's where you can see the debris see the debris line way up here, and these folks cleaned all that up, raked it up, and put it in a pile. So our crews are going to go swing by and pick it up and dispose of it. So that was a good thing. But you can see these ditches saved the properties. The properties didn't get any significant damage. I'm sure that I cannot with any certainty say that nobody had water in their basements, because this type of event they got water in their basements from all kinds of avenues, but primarily not because these ditches were full, which is a good thing. I mean, I think, John, you said that yours was flowing in your basement windows just from the runoff off your lot. So, yeah, so it was pretty significant event. So we're kind of back to the beginning, and
One of the things that you will notice with your pictures is you really don't see anything on West Watertown, because you have done significant amount of storm sewer work over there in the last couple of years that's running it down into the Sioux.
yeah, we did have some issues. I don't have any pictures of it on Highway 20, kind of along the old railroad tracks, just north of the utility building over there. There was some localized flooding there as well, but really nothing that I didn't hear any massive reports of damage. I know in one part of town there was a basement that collapsed, but again, all in all, pretty isolated events.
Yeah, and then you notice, whenever we have people in and we're talking to the planning commission and yourself, and you're asking them to put in these retention ponds, and we think, oh, how stupid is that, to put away all that property and dig this hole deeper and bigger. It kind of shows you that this has worked.
Yep, this is what they're intended for, is to take a large event and hopefully save some property damage. So.
Mine worked.
Yeah, I drove by yours. It did. I think some of your neighbors had some water upstream flow over their lots. I don't know. I haven't heard any damage reports of water in buildings, but I know that water did make it into buildings in certain parts of town. So
How did the new retention ponds that were put in for the middle school and the event center, they work okay?
they did do fairly well. I won't say they didn't have any issues. I know 11th Street did get overtopped slightly. Yep. In fact, that was the most furthest upstream road that did get overtopped, but didn't do any substantial damage to the roadway or the embankments. And I know from there south, it overtopped 11th, it overtopped 7th Avenue, 14th Avenue, or 7th Street, excuse me. 14th Avenue got overtopped. 10th, I don't think it quite overtopped 10th Avenue, but then once you got south of 9th Avenue, it overtopped several down on the way down to 3rd Avenue. But and like I said, the storm facilities seem to have metered that water through there. The water did fill the creek capacity, and some people got water, but it didn't wash buildings away. It didn't.
What is it, 15th that's going in out to the new?
Right.
Did it wash across through? I mean, that's just got curb in
No.
there right now.
No,
so.
that was fine. Yeah.
How did the land west of the new middle school, when you get across 11th there, those new homes that are built there, did the berms hold the water there before it got over to Great Plains Lutheran?
Well, way that's designed is that the ponds overtop the roadways before they get to the houses. So I know that I've seen debris washed up into those yards and on fences and things like that, but I did not hear of anything, no damage from the water that was already in those drainage facilities. Like I said, a lot of people had water that their sump pumps had to handle because it seeped in around the foundations and maybe through a window like John had happen and stuff like that. I mean, literally the water, I don't care where you were standing in parts of town, I bet the water on average was flowing across yards 4 to 6 inches deep. I mean, that's just how fast it was raining. And, after you get through the first hour of the storm, everything was soaked up. And then the really intense rain came later, about halfway through the storm. And that's what you get. It just starts to, once the ground's soaked up, the water doesn't penetrate anymore, and you get the huge runoff. So, all in all, like I said, I was pretty pleased. My phone didn't ring overnight, so that meant Rob and his crew and the police department and probably the fire department all did an excellent job. So
Yeah, and Berger's crew was out, they had a couple
yeah,
lift stations
yep,
that.
I'm sure they were out checking their gear too.
Yeah,
So
they had a couple lift stations that gave them a fit, but all in all, they did pretty well.
yeah, I agree. So kudos to all those guys that were out working on it and keeping
Yeah.
everybody safe.
Unless you guys have something you want to directly ask Shane, we could take a few-minute break and come back here at 7 o'clock.
I do have one question, and maybe it's not just to you, but maybe everybody on the council and the mayor. And when we allow for new development, when do we call it? When they go out and they move dirt, they move earth, they build a big pile at the end of the development. When do we call it's long enough to let that pile of dirt sit there and grow weeds? And I mean, you could drive around town, look at just about any development, and there's some place there that, I mean, you got a nice property here, and at the end of there, right across the street, there's this big, huge pile of dirt that just sits there and grows weeds. And when do we call it long enough to allow that? So,
Well, I'll have to look into that a little bit closer. Usually, you try to handle those. Now, okay, I'll give you the long answer. Of course, engineers can't give a short answer. If the dirt is intended for a phase 2 or phase 3 of a project, we'll let it sit there a little bit longer than but if that project's finished, there should be a sunset on how long that pile is there. And then just take a step back. During the pile's life, it should be graded such that it can be maintained either by mowing, or you gotta spray the weeds off of it, or manage it. It's gotta be manageable.
well,
And,
and not trying to pick on anybody in particular. You come into the east side of town, Titan's built that great big facility, beautiful facility. Just to the east, there sits those big piles of dirt. First thing people see when they come into town, and I'm not saying that to pick on Titans, that's just one.
It's an example.
Yeah, one example. Is there anything in our ordinance that covers that, or do we need to put something in the ordinance to cover it, or?
We'll take a look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, we have, and we've talked about it, and I've actually gotten calls or had people talk to me about the area on 19th and First Avenue, which would be to the north and east, where they've started developing. Well, those piles of dirt and black dirt, and then the ground underneath it that they created, as far as maybe the clay and sand and stuff, those have been here for 2-3 years now.
Yeah.
And again, here we are coming off one of our main thoroughfares coming into town, and that's what you see.
Yep, we can look at those, and
Yep.
I'll do some.
Are you talking
digging.
right north of the new washette? I just noticed last week, I think they're gone.
Yep, they are, yeah, somebody did move those,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's an example of one that's
Yep.
recently.
And, and I don't want to put a hardship on a developer, but there has to be a time, I know a lot of those are meant just, and a lot of it's repurposed, as soon as they go into the next phase, but there's got to be a line that we draw in the pile, put it that way, so to say.
And one of the things on the black dirt, though, is generally they scrape the black dirt and pile it, and then the whole development doesn't get done right away. So as they build, they draw off that pile. If they pay to haul that someplace else, and then got to pay to haul it back in, it's going to drive up the cost of
And
things.
that's where the management of those piles comes
Yep,
into play. If you
then
could
do
build-
some weed control.
Yeah, or weed control, or mow it, or however you do that.
That's
But
it.
you're right, we'll look at it, and we'll bring those issues forward.
Well, thank you, Shane. I think I appreciate the photographs. It very eye-opening for us. At this time, I will adjourn the meeting, and we'll be back at 7 o'clock for the city council meeting.